So thank you for coming together to join us in celebrating this 50th anniversary of the March on Washington. It is my pleasure to introduce our ambassador, Mr. Henry Ensher, but we're very thrilled to have him here to welcome you today.
So thanks very much, and I wanted to say thank you first of all for everybody for coming out today. Journalists, members of the IRC, so grateful to have you as members of the IRC and to have you come out and be able to offer your experiences to us. Members of the Youth Council, thank you especially to the PD section for setting this up on short notice. Complicated technical undertaking, and so we're very grateful for that. It's a daunting and humbling experience to be asked to speak before you'll have the opportunity to hear one of the great speeches in American history. This is a beautiful word and powerful and effective from Dr. King, so that requires that I be brief. I think the importance of the speech in the march was that it indicated what peaceful change can bring, what peaceful demonstrations, where they can lead, and the massive changes that they can produce in society. I'd just point out to you that even though it has that power, demonstration, street action, protest, very, very important. Just as important, however, is organization and passing legislation, and then enforcing that legislation. The march that you're going to see talked about in this film took place in 1963, right? Anybody know when the legislation was passed? 2 years later, in 1965. The story of why it took 2 years to pass the legislation, even after President Kennedy was murdered, is a story of politics and compromise and organization and coalition building. All those things are very difficult, but critical if you're going to actually achieve the promise of street demonstrations and protests. Christy asked me to provide some personal recollections of this event, of the march in 1963. I was happy to inform Christy that I was 4 years old in 1963. So I actually have no personal recollections of this particular event, but for me, I would say a strong sense of where we were as a country and how it could affect all of us came maybe several years later when Dr. King and then Robert Kennedy were assassinated for political reasons. These were straight political assassinations, and they happened because of the positions that these two men took. Okay? And those two events had great impact on the United States, and by the time I was 8 years old, or 9 in 1968, had a very strong sense that something really important had happened. I also saw that as a result of the changes in civil rights, suddenly there were new people at my school, people I'd never seen before, colors that I'd never seen before growing up, and so that was an immediate impact that I felt. So today we're continuing the legacy of Dr. King. Not a perfect democracy. Democratization is always a process. We never ever perfect democracy or actually get there. But we see that we made progress, and an example of progress, not the definition of progress, not the definition of success, but an example of progress is the fact that Barack Obama is the President of the United States. Honestly, before he was elected, I never ever thought I would see an African American as President of the United States until it happened. So now here, all over the world, we have this film to show us what determination to achieve justice and peace, and how such determination can in fact succeed and push us all together. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on. And if the FBI would investigate, yeah, then probably then we could integrate. Yeah, keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on.
350 years ago, white man came to America, and 350 years ago, the Negro came to America. The one came as master, the other as slave. 100 years ago, Abraham Lincoln declared as President of the United States that all slaves would henceforward be set free. Now, both black and white Americans were preparing to march to say that a century later, the black man still was not completely free.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when this happens, when we allow freedom ring.
There were many who praised this day and said that there had been a new awakening in the conscience of the nation. Others called it a national disgrace. In the wake of this day, more violence was to come, more hatred. But in the long history of man's cruelty to man, this was a day of hope.
So my thought actually as we're looking at this text, and the ambassador agrees, that it might be interesting just to get your all's reactions in person, and we can watch the feed come up as questions come, but I'd be more than happy to kind of moderate thoughts and discussions, your all's impressions. I wrote down something someone said that I thought was pretty phenomenal. He said, what a beautiful word, freedom. And wow, it just really moved me watching this. And I don't cry easily, so it was really powerful to watch this. I've read the words, I've heard it, but watching it today on the 50th anniversary, 2 days off, was really powerful for me. So I would love to hear your all's thoughts. If you can do it from your seat, you're welcome. I can hand you the mic, it's portable. But we'd love to take questions and hear your thoughts after this. So anyone?
Washington, D.C. was like another country away almost. The people in my church really prayed on this day that the march would be successful and that it would be peaceful. And even as a young teenager, I was so impressed with the march. In my family, we had always been taught that all men are created equal. Now, I lived in Northern California where there were almost no black people. And in my school, there were no black students. And so even with that, and I had really no idea what the conditions in the South were like, where there was a significant majority of African American people. But the people that I lived with and were friends with, we were all in support of this march, and we were so excited that it was happening. And it's such an impression, such a moving experience to watch this film today, because like Christy, it brought tears to my eyes to see what progress can be made when people do take actions that are wise and loving, and when they realize that all men are created equal. And it takes time for people to learn to live in peace and harmony with one another. But it takes interactions like we have here at this embassy of getting to know each other and seeing, wow, it doesn't matter what country you're from. It doesn't matter what economic status you're from. God did create all people equal. And it's an inspiration to me that now in the United States, we have an African American president, And it gives me encouragement that with this change that's taken place over the last 50 years, this can happen in other countries where you're going to see more freedom for people all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette. Does anyone else have anything they want to share or add? Anyone? You're more than welcome. Any of our IRC members? Yes? Good.
Excuse me to present myself. I'm Diaidin Namen. I'm the number 2 in IRC. Membership, yeah. From the march and Martin Luther King from my childhood, I hear about Martin Luther King, about Kennedy, this period, but because Kennedy, he named like King Arthur of America, like this. About Martin Luther King, from my childhood, I hear about I have a dream. Me, I'm all time said, I believe that I have a dream. I believe that realized dream.
I didn't see any women other than the musical performers. But I think, and my point with that is, I think that has changed too. Because if you saw a march like this today, it wouldn't be the same. And I saw a significant change in who we are watching this film, because women would have been a part. They were in the march. You saw them all over the place. They would have been on the stage as well, sharing that stage. So I noticed that change.
So what's the purpose of this activity?
This activity is a worldwide commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, during which Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., gave his now very famous I Have a Dream speech. This speech and this march changed the consciousness of the United States. It changed the consciousness and the ideas actually around the world. So today's event is to celebrate the difference that the 200,000 people that came together in Washington made, and to celebrate the difference that Martin Luther King made for the United States and for the people of the world.
Okay. Is it one activity among the cultural activities done by the American Embassy here in Algeria?
This is one of many, many, many activities that we do here at the Embassy in Algeria.
Such as?
Oh, I've only been here for 4 weeks, and it's been a bit of a slow period. I arrived during Ramadan, but we have significant English language programs. We have significant educational exchanges. We send several Fulbrighters to the United States every year. We send many high school students and college students to study in the United States. We do a lot of work. We believe in the power of education, the power of cultural exchange. Numerous visits of Algerians to the United States and Americans here to share ideas about our common values, and to look to see ways we can partner and work together to make a difference.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's great to be here.